Kind of hungry. Can I leave? Go get changed? Come back? Get something to eat? Just asking.
Guten Morgen, guten Nachmittag, guten Morgen, guten Nachmittag, guten Abend.
Ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are, whatever time it is for you right now, just know that you are locked in until the point with the king. You guys find us Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, which is now my ex. Yeah. And on YouTube, which is hopefully where you're watching us. And if you guys are there, we really appreciate you guys enjoying it. If you're new to it, click subscribe, click like, leave a comment. Once we get to have 750 subs, you see this right there? This hoodie is going to one of our random fans, and we would love to give it to you. But what we're going to give to you today is a lot of insight from my man, the myth, the legend, okay? Mr. Man played in the Euro League for so long. My man coaching out there, teaching the youngins. Amazing guy, all the way out there in Germany. Sean McCaw. Can I say Dankeschön for joining us today?
Bitteschön, Dankeschön.
How are you doing today, my brother?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on as usual.
Okay, I reached out to you because I think you would be the most perfect person for this, since I do not watch Reels and I do not watch TikToks. Okay, so sorry if I don't watch yours or your story or whatever. Okay, but this man's I do watch religiously. Okay, and he has brought up some things, and I want to get into a deep dive on what he has brought up regarding agents for professional players that do play basketball. Okay, now Sean, can we clear up the air and just define the role of an agent for a player?
Yeah, no problem. So basically, an agent has a couple of jobs within his job or her job. They have to secure a contract for said player. Also, negotiations. There's a lot of backroom stuff that goes on as far as negotiations are concerned. But also, they have to be there for the player if things go wrong. If the player's hurt or fired or something like that, they've got to be there for that player as well. But it's also an agent's job to touch base with them during a season and find out how things are going, how they're playing, go to games, meet with GMs for future references as well. There's quite a lot what the agents do.
Now, do professional players actually need an agent, such as on the NFL, Lamar Jackson? He doesn't have an agent, and he's secured. Do they need? Is there a need for this? Is it a desired need?
It depends on the player and how old they are. In some instances, for the NBA, I would say yes, especially in the beginning. Overseas basketball, you don't necessarily need one, but you'll only get to a certain level without one, because let's say the German Bundesliga, the first league in Germany, they're not taking somebody's YouTube video and say, hey, I want that guy. They're only using agents. So you can get a very low level job still overseas. It'll be hard, but you can do it on your own. If you want to reach a certain level, then you'll definitely need an agent. I advise everyone to get an agent if they're playing overseas.
Okay, my question. Let's really get down into this. This is why you guys clicked on the thumbnail to watch this. Now, my question to you is, based on the players having an agent, obviously the agents take a percentage of the player's contract.
Right.
Do you think that some of the agents are getting a little bit greedy with the talent that they have under their umbrella through their agency?
That's a good question. You could ask the same about the players, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are they worth $330 million? Some might say no, some might say yes. With an agent, the things that an agent does is actually very important for a player's career. It shouldn't be understated. Yes, there are probably some agents that are making a lot of money, but that means that they are making their clients a lot of money. So they don't just get the money for doing nothing. Can an agent have too much power? Yes. Back in the day, for sure, David Falk had a lot of influence with Jordan, for sure. Right now, Rich Paul has a lot of influence. Yeah, we all understand that, but I think they've all earned that right, and it's the markets that dictates salaries. So if the TV deal comes off at a good time for your client and you negotiate a good deal, I don't see a problem with that. Can an agent be too powerful? Probably. Can an agent influence players in a negative way sometimes with some key advice? Probably. It's happened many times. Can the agent be wrong with the advice that they give? Yes. But in the end, every player finds his own agent. So it's kind of hard to say that they're not worth what they get.
Now, speaking from a personal perspective, sorry, this is off script. Based on what you said, from a personal perspective, have you experienced a good experience with an agent or a bad experience with an agent?
I think I've never had a bad agent, but I was very thorough in my selection of agents and the whys. I was also fortunate enough that I could pick and choose what agent I wanted to have and what not. Not a lot of players are able to really pick. They don't have anybody and they write to agents, or they somehow get in contact with agents and they take the first one that shows some kind of interest. Usually that's how it goes these days. In my career, I was fortunate enough to be able to pick and choose.
Well, great for you. But here's the angle I see it. Now, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go off on a rant here. Sean, if you could bear with me for a bit. From what I've seen is pretty much in the NBA currently in North American basketball, it's what I've noticed is there's been more agents involved who have too much power. For example, to crystallize it, Rich Paul, who his players just within this past off season has made over $900 million. Now, the percentage that he takes, I'm not sure of. I don't know. I didn't write the contract. But I've noticed like a lot of good players leaving teams where they have a potential to win, and they're giving up the idea of winning to go to other teams and just collect the cash and do the commercials and put some money in their pocket. Now, listen, I'm not against anybody trying to get some extra money in their pocket. I got no problem, right? But there is a fine line between greed and morality and integrity, which I see, right? Now, I understand that, yes, you know what, young man, you came up broke, go for it, right? Get all you can, take care of your kids, your grandkids, and your great-grandkids. Like, leave sort of a lineage. I understand that you want to leave a legacy. Great. Good for you. But you, as a former player, where do you draw that line in the sand, my friend?
I think it's an individual case. For me, I didn't play for the money. It wasn't like that. Okay, I wasn't in the NBA. It wasn't that I was making 150 million a year. So I think for everybody, it's a fine line, because an athlete's shelf life, if you want to put it like that, is 10, maybe 15 years, maybe. So you only have a certain amount of time where you can earn a really incredible amount of money. And then what are you going to do for the rest of your life when you're 35 and you got another 35 years to live? So from that side, it's players tend to gravitate more towards the money at times due to the fact that they only have a short window to earn such a large amount of money. On the other hand, of course, you have players like Dame who sacrificed smaller market. He could have been gone a long time ago. Mm-hmm. That's integrity, right? But in the end, what did it get him? It didn't get him a championship. It didn't get him an extreme amount of money. He's making really good money now, and that's not what I mean. But he was on a smaller market. He could have earned much more if he had gone much earlier in his career. It's for every player to decide what it is. I think it's too much influence given on an agent, though. The agent presents the deals. The player is the one that accepts or declines. It was always my last decision what job I took, always. And I would never have it any other way. Yes, I did listen to what my agent said. Maybe this is a better situation, take less money, or this is a good situation, even though it's more money. It depends on your relationship with your agent. But the thing is, the agent is working for the players, not the other way around. So the player has the last say in every decision. If the player says no, I'm gonna take less money and stay where I'm at because I'm a loyal guy or whatever the reason is, then he will do that. But if the player says, hey, I've got on the table, I've got 100 million more on this other contract, that's also his right. That's also his last say.
Do you think, okay, you would know more behind the scenes than we all do out here, so please educate us. Do you think that at some point there could be some agents out there saying, yeah, take the money, because they're aware that they're going to get paid more, right? And sacrificing this player's career as maybe a pedigree or someone that could be a superstar, something along those lines. Do you think they could be in their ear and like going out for their own personal benefit as opposed to the player's benefit?
No question. Of course, that's what every agent does. Is they, in effect, they do it for the money. They do it not in the great interest of the player. Yes, you do have good relationships with your agents and their family. You have agents that have been in your life for a large number of years. But in the end, it's a business, both for the player and for the agent. And you hope that you have a good relationship with your agent. But in the end, seriously, it's the player's decision. Yes, an agent can influence a player, no question. It's been done before. But I'm sorry, if you're an adult and you make a decision, it's your decision. It's not the agent whispering in your ear.
Okay. Now, here's one thing I have. Here's something controversial out there for everybody out there that's watching currently. Okay. Do you think over here on this side of the pond, not where you are, but on this side of the pond, with the agents getting in these players' ears and trying to influence them to take bigger contracts, that it has affected the overall, NBA game, since now most of these players are looking for three things: money, stats padding, and endorsements to put some money in their pocket. As opposed to winning, do you think there is something there behind that we don't go on to see?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of conflicts of interest that go on in the back rooms of negotiations, no question.
Have you seen it personally?
Yeah. I know, and I'm very close with a lot of agents as well, and the stories that I hear are crazy. But that's the business. That it's not Disneyland. It's a real business with a lot of numbers, and because of that, everyone wants to have their edge. They want to have the best deal for their client, which in turn is a good deal for them as well. It's part of the business, and it will always be like that. It runs in kind of highs and lows. You have a super agent like David Falk dominate the player market for years. Then somebody else comes along. Right now, it's Rich Paul. In a couple of years, it could be someone else. It just depends.
Yeah. Man. But is okay? You've been on both sides of the pond, right? You from this side, but you're out there in Europe. Now, have you, as a former player, former pro, have you noticed a difference in the way agency is handled on this end as opposed to that end? Is there a difference, or is it all the
Oh,
same?
I think there's a huge difference between agents here in Europe or overseas and NBA agents. They just it's a different negotiation field because of the money. The money is just astronomically different as opposed to what players earn over here. So of course, then there's endorsements with what is not huge over here in Europe for top players. Yeah, but for the majority of players, there's no such thing as a guy having a shoe deal or endorsements like that. So it's a totally different influence. The money and the opportunities in the NBA, totally different influence than what is over here. You can't. It's like comparing apples and oranges.
So as a player, if let's just say you were to be on this side in North America, right? Would you be mainly like, I gotta get mine, or would you, or as opposed to in Europe, would you say that it's like we gotta get ours?
Um, I am a notoriously horrible person about money. I never do anything with the focus on money. I've turned down jobs that were higher because I felt the situation was better at a lower paid job. I think if I was in the NBA, to get influence, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, and for me, my motivation was to see a lot of Europe, to play in different countries, to do like that. But if I was living in the States and I was playing in the NBA, maybe my motivation would be different. So it's hard to say, but I mean, with the sheer amount of money that those players are making in the NBA, I think it's normal to be influenced by dollar signs.
That brings up my next question for you. Now, do you think that because of these players are making so much money that they can be arrogant, like bringing back to my joke at the beginning of this episode, right? Where they can be arrogant and think that they're untouchable and immortal and they can do whatever they want because of the amount of money. I don't know if y'all seen the movie Scarface, but you know what I mean? Where they think nothing can happen to them. Do you think that takes away, as a player, like the hunger and the drive, as opposed to a player in the Euro League who's not making as much but has the hunger and the drive? Do you think there's something
I
there?
wouldn't put a blanket over it because there's for sure many NBA players that perfect their craft. That even though they're making a lot of money, that they really put in the time. Of course, with more money, there's also more responsibilities and also more things, endorsements. You have to do commercials. You have to do. There's a lot of things that are a part of everyday NBA life that just isn't happening over here. So I wouldn't throw a blanket on it. Clearly, there's differences in figures, and that influences a lot of people in a negative way. But there's also EuroLeague players that don't work on their craft. I've seen it. I've seen lazy players over here as well. There's guys that are making $500 a month that work harder than some EuroLeague players. That's just the way it is. Every individual is different, but of course, the more money, more problems.
Okay, Biggie, I know where you're from. Okay, but this is interesting. But before we get out of here, I want to give you the floor for however long you want. Okay, because I really want to get into those reels that you put up. Now, if I was a budding star player, right, that couldn't go pro, what are the boxes I got to check to acquiring the right agent for you? Someone that's looking out for your best personal interest, looking out for your family, looking out for you to win, looking out for you to make a name, as opposed to just getting you to sign a big ass contract and taking what 10-15% of that, right, putting it in their pocket and laughing, and they don't care if you get injured or whatever. What are the boxes that you have to check off, brother? The ball's yours.
It is really hard to answer that question. It might seem like an easy answer, but it's very complicated. especially these days. We're talking about players that are coming overseas, because if you're an NBA type talent, you have a lot of agents coming after you, and you just have to basically weed the ones out the best you can. In general, though, you'll never know until you come into a situation with your agent, how good your agent is. And especially for overseas basketball, I would say, and I say this to all my clients, I say it to people that I mentor, you never know if you have a good agent until you either get hurt or you get fired. That's when you know if you have a good agent or not. It's every agent's job to get you a job. That's what they do. That's the only way they make money, at least overseas. Agents don't get money until they get you a job. They get a portion of your salary, your how much you make, and that's it. But they don't get paid unless they get you a job. So that's the most minimum thing that agents do. But to understand what happens if you get hurt or if you get fired, that's a whole different. That's when you learn how valuable, how trustworthy, how much that agent cares for you if one of those two things happen. It's
you know who you real like from, though, right?
Yeah, no doubt, man. Because if you have a good agent, let's take one instance. If you get fired, usually the agent should know before you get fired. It shouldn't be a surprise to your agent. You shouldn't have to call your agent and be like, hey, I just got fired. He should probably already know that. So that means he's already working the scene. What can I do? What kind of negotiations can I open with a settlement? Can I find him another job so that he doesn't lose money or possibly gain money in this instance? Let's talk if you get hurt, if you get seriously hurt. I'm not talking about a twisted ankle. If you get seriously hurt and can't finish the season, for example, I broke my leg. I learned real quick. I had a good agent when I broke my leg. He came out to see me. He was Italian. He came out to see me. He did all the negotiations. Everything was set. I had literally the next day after I broke my leg, I had a contract from my team for the next season. That's unheard of. Normally overseas, if you get hurt, you're back. They fix you up, put a Band-Aid on it, and send you on your way. I had a contract for the next season. I just had to stay there in rehab. Those were the conditions. I had the same contract as I had the year before or that season, and I just had to stay in rehab. So those are the two instances when you know how well your agent is connected, how well your agent is respected from teams, and how much that agent is willing to take care of you. Everything else, it's more to get a feel for them. But until you really need them, you never really know.
Ain't that every human being in our lives? Right? Shoot. So you really need them. Man. Wow, I didn't know you broke your leg.
Yeah, my first season overseas. I was there literally 2 months before I broke my leg.
Wow. And your agent took care of you. That's amazing. Is it any okay? Here's just a weird question before we get out of here, okay? Is it anything like the movie, what is it, Rise? The one with Adam and Bo Cruz?
Adam Sandler?
Yeah.
Adam Sandler?
Is it anything like that?
It's very similar. It is very similar. Not so much the aspect of NBA agent finding a raw talent and stuff like. Okay, it's a movie, right? But
it's like the era up there. That movie, the Disney movie, way back in the day.
Yeah. No. There's some similarities. There's some things that go on. Of course, finding these days is really hard to find somebody that nobody knows about.
Now, okay. Shoot, man, we can go on for hours about this. Just one last one. Let me hit you with one last one. Like an agent, as opposed to a scout. Like if an agent were to see a player, what's their like kind of like legal role with the player? Like, are they just guarding that player as the client, as opposed to a scout saying, "We like this guy, let's get him going. Somebody get him an agent."
Two totally different businesses, if you want to put it like that, or aspects. A scout's normal job is working with a team. for whatever team he's affiliated with. The agent is representing the player, and usually in instances of a big time player, they work together. They work together and try to find the best situation for that player. But in general, if a scout sees somebody, he's going back to his team and saying, "Hey, I found this guy in Spain. We need to take a look at him. We need to give him a hard look." They won't usually contact the agent unless a team is very serious in having that player.
Sean, thank you so much for educating us today. This has been a pleasure. Dankeschön, my friend. Dankeschön. Sean, before I sign off, can you let the people out there know where they can find out more information for upcoming players, anybody trying to break into the league, anything behind the scenes? Can you please let them know where to find you, my friend?
No problem. So I've written a book called Same Name, Different Game. You can find it on Amazon. Yeah, you got your copy over there too. You can find it on Amazon. It's really a guide to help players that want to come overseas. And it has some stories from my career. I played 13 seasons overseas and coached for another 9. So that's
and still coaching.
I try to give it. And I'm still coaching, under 14, but I'm still coaching you. And normally the place where everybody finds me is on Instagram. That's where I am the most, under Sean J. McCaw, or at Sean J. McCaw, SeanJMCCAW.
Don't worry, we'll leave a link at the bottom. Don't worry.
And I'm the one behind my page. I'm the only one that has control over it. So if you write me, I'm the one that's going to write you back. So that's where I'm the heaviest and most active. And like you said, I do some funny reels, but I also do blogs and other writing things to inform and educate the followers, my teammates, as I call them.
And he also does here on To The Point.
Anytime you call me, if I got time, I'm there.
Yeah, I know, man. I'm always operating off of your time. You guys can find me at King Hussein on Instagram. Yes, ladies, don't let this ring fool you. It ain't real. Real. But you guys could find us, hopefully, out there on Instagram, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, hopefully. And remember, we are still giving this dope sweater away. If none of y'all get me to 750 soon, I'm going to be rocking it. And y'all know I'm not a Raptors fan. All right. So on behalf of myself, Sean McCaw, the To The Point family, and if you're watching, I consider you the To The Point family. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, and peace.